Can you explain hot salad to me? I think that's way far back that I haven't listened to that episode, so I don't get what the deal is with hot salad.
Oh, I don't know if I've ever actually listened to the episode where they like Mitch started coming up with that, but I think it's just a weird thing that he accused Weiger of liking. Like he's like, yeah, I bet you like hot salad, you fucking freak. And Weiger was probably like, look, I am a normal man and I like my salad to be cold. I don't know why you think I like hot salad. And then Mitch just keeps repeating it as if it's fact.
Okay.
And it's just as simple as that.
All right.
I honestly don't think there's a big thing. Okay. Other than the fact that Weiger was like, people think I actually like hot salad now. And he's like, you do.
I don't even know what a hot salad is. Is it like that?
It doesn't. I don't think it exists.
Well, have you seen those? People take like a head of romaine lettuce or something, and then they put on a grill, and then they just squirt like you would ketchup on a hot dog, just some Caesar dressing on it. Yeah. So when I was in Hawaii with my parents, like 6 years ago, I was wait a minute. This couldn't have been recently.
No. I lived with you though.
Yeah, that's true. That's why I was thinking like, wait a minute. That was the last time I remember that happening.
But I was a vegetarian at the time, which meant that was the worst part about being a vegetarian, I think, was that traveling, it's way more limiting. Like now I would be like, yeah, give me all that fish stuff. Like, let me eat it all. But at the time I was like, no, I'll have salad. And I remember going to like a fancy restaurant with my family, and one of the only vegetarian options, which honestly might not have even been vegetarian because sometimes Caesar salads have like fish product in them. But I ordered a Caesar salad and it was 2 leaves of romaine lettuce.
Wait, just the leaf?
Well, 2 leaves. Yeah. Like not cut up or anything, like on a plate, on like a square plate, like drizzled, just like you were saying. And it was like,
God,
$15
$15
or something ridiculous like that, and it was not filling. And I wasn't mad because I was being taken out to dinner by my family. I was like very like thankful that somebody was buying me food because I did not have any money at that point in my life. But also I was like, why does this restaurant only have this? Says they're one vegetarian option.
Oh my God, $15 for 2. Can you imagine paying $15 for just like 2 watery leaves at like a plant store?
God, that'd be insane. No, you can buy a lot of heads of lettuce for $15.
That's true. I don't like lettuce.
Really?
It's not my preferred green.
What if you're making a salad? What do you put on it, or what do you use as?
I don't think I've ever made a salad.
What?
I don't know. I don't prefer eating salads. So why would I go out of my way to make one? I'll eat one if it's made for me.
Okay, well, what do you prefer then? And if somebody's
I like
made
spinach as a base.
Spinach is
good. I like arugula. That's a good base.
I think arugula is too bitter. I'll eat it, but it's
I like the bitterness.
I much prefer spinach. I'm with you on the spinach.
Spinach is good, but I don't know. Like if you remember, those iceberg lettuce salads that you get out of a bag that you would always get at like an elementary school.
Yeah.
Or at the Boy Scout chili feed.
And you smother that shit in ranch.
Yep. I hate that.
I know that it's not actually really good for you in any way, but I do like it.
Oh, I can't eat it without without it being in a pool of ranch. I cannot eat it. It's ugh.
Yeah. It's like somebody figured out what a salad was and then decided to take out every nutritional benefit. But it's got a good texture. I love that crunch of iceberg lettuce.
The crunch, I will
satisfying.
agree. It is a good crunch, but I can't deal with the immediate following of like dirt water taste in my mouth.
Were you cleaning off this lettuce?
No.
Or are you just pulling it straight out of the ground?
Pulling it straight out of the ground.
Okay, you gotta wash
throwing
that
some
stuff.
Hidden Valley on that thing and then just chomping down.
Yeah, you gotta wash that shit.
All right. Well,
are we recording?
I'll watch it next time.
Because this is good stuff.
It is good stuff. Salad talk. I feel like we talk a lot about food on this podcast, which I'm fine with.
I think it's normally because I'm so hungry.
Food's relatable. Everyone eats.
Everybody eats. Everybody poops.
That's true.
Did that guy write a book called Everybody Eats? Compliment Everybody Poops as a prequel?
He should have.
He really should. Or she. Or they.
Yeah.
I don't know who wrote that book.
Let's find out. Josh, it is a Japanese children's book. Did you know that?
What?
Yeah. So I'm going to let you say the name so that I do not embarrass myself.
Sure. It is...
Here, let me hand you my computer instead of doing something much easier.
See, it is written by Taro Gomi. I didn't know. Wait, as in like it was published in Japan, or it's just written by a Japanese person?
Okay, maybe I should do some investigating here.
Okay.
Everybody Poops is the title of U.S. editions of the English translation of Mina Unchi?
Unchi?
Unchi? UNCHI.
Yeah, that means poop. Unko means poop.
Okay, so yeah,
Minna
a Japanese children's book.
Minna means everybody.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so it's Everybody Poops.
Wow. I didn't know it was Japanese.
Yeah, so it's just a translation. Yeah.
Wonderful.
In Britain, the book is titled Everybody Poos.
Oh my God. Wow. That's
is...
some hard localization right there.
Mm-hmm.
We did make a poopcast joke, I think, in like the first episode.
Oh, yeah.
We started talking about poop.
I think we talked a lot about poop.
This is the poopcast.
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 With your number 2 guys, Josh and Paul. We're sitting here in a couple of toilets. Josh's bathroom.
While we poop.
Yeah.
Got a very nice sound-treated bathroom. Not echoey at all.
It would be... Do you think anybody's thought of doing that? Like a podcast recorded? Somebody has to have thought of this. Recorded while 2 people are going to the bathroom, like pooping.
Like in the same bathroom, or like by saying bathroom, I mean like, well, I don't know. Are you imagining like a public bathroom where there's stalls, or are you imagining like a home bathroom?
Well, it'd have to be a public bathroom,
I guess,
unless you have 2 toilets.
Well, I was thinking like someone's in like the upstairs bathroom pooping, someone's in the downstairs bathroom pooping, and then I don't know, they record a phone call or something.
That would be a better way to do it, I think.
I mean, that's just a way to like do it
so you
socially distanced.
Have to like actually be in the room while somebody else is taking a big shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think, maybe nobody has done it. Maybe it's not a good idea. Well, it's not a good idea.
Did you see that that video on Reddit of like these kids fighting in it's like a high school bathroom or whatever, and they're like getting into like a fist fight, and then they end up like crashing into one of the stall doors, and then there's just another kid on the toilet just like in the most awkward and uncomfortable, just like in the middle of a poop, and then all of a sudden there's like these 2 kids that just barge in fighting, and then like 5 other kids watching.
Wow.
And then there's just this kid that's just like, feel bad for the kid, but it is
too
a hilarious story when he's old enough, as long as that doesn't fuck him up too much.
Yeah. I mean, did he try to close it afterwards?
No. And partly because he was in the far stall, like the handicap stall.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's room for them to keep fighting?
There's room for them to keep fighting, and he is too far away from the door to do anything about it.
That's a really... Man, that would suck if that happened to you.
That would be terrible if that... Well...
I mean, that poop went right back in him or right back out of him.
That's
not back
true.
out. Right out of him. One or the other.
I'd like to think that if I was in that situation now, as a 27-year-old, I would have none of that. And
what would you do? Wait, let's take it back. Okay, Josh.
Yeah,
you're pooping.
I'm pooping.
Handicap stall.
Mm-hmm.
End of the day, you've had a.
Well, let's make this. It would be the beginning of the day for me, because when I was working at my old job, I would have to get there at 6 a.m.
Oh yeah,
and like clockwork, 7 a.m. rolls around, I got to poop.
Okay, good for you. You're regular.
I'm very, very regular. At least when I was working there, it was like 7 a.m. on the dot, time to go.
Cool.
And of course, there's no one there at 7 a.m. in this bank building.
Except for these kids who are fighting.
So I'm just like hanging out, taking my time, not thinking about work, scrolling through Reddit, and then walk me through it, Paul.
Okay. Well, weird beginning. You're watching that same video on Reddit, thinking to yourself,
God,
what am I going to do about this if somebody did that to me? Next thing you know, 3 seconds later, bam, the door opens. These kids are fighting. They're throwing punches. They're wailing on each other. There's like 6 other kids watching the fight, egging them on, and they start barreling towards your stall. You feel it in your gut that they're gonna be there soon. And then they charge through the door somehow for some reason. And there you are. Pants around. Well, I don't know what your pooping style is. You go pants all the way down or like partially pulled down?
It's somewhere in between. Depends on the pants that I'm wearing.
Sure.
In this case, I'd be wearing sweatpants just because I could wear sweatpants at work at that job. So they would probably, I don't know, they'd probably be all the way down.
Okay, all the way down. What do you do?
Well, probably let out an expletive.
Which one?
Probably fuck.
You say fuck?
What the fuck?
I feel like I would say shit.
I wouldn't, because that assumes that like I'm in trouble or something. I don't know. That to me that doesn't contextually feel right. I would probably just say like, what the fuck? That's probably what I would say. And if it were to continue as it was in that video where they seem to not notice me.
Mm-hmm.
That was happening in that video. These 2 kids just kept fighting, like had their like arms and like heads locked together, not even noticing that there's someone like on the toilet. If that happened to me, I would probably I don't know, get up and rub my poop on them or something.
You'd get up and rub your poop on them?
Yeah.
That is a wild reaction. I thought you were
That's a wild thing to happen.
Well, it is, but I thought you were going to say like you would tell them to get the hell out of there or something.
No, at that point I feel like it's too far. It's too far in. It's gone from like 0 to 100 instantly because they just barged in while I'm in the middle of my morning poop.
Wait, so you're going to bend over, pick up your own poop and rub it on them?
Yeah, why not? You can wash your hands. They can't wash their clothes right away.
Wow, that is just not at all the direction I thought you were going to go with that.
If they're going to make this uncomfortable for me, I'm going to make it uncomfortable for them.
I think it'd be uncomfortable if you just stood up with like your wiener out.
I mean, yeah, I would do that afterwards. Or maybe I would join the fight. I would take off all my clothes and then join in on the fight.
I did hear about, I feel like I read or like heard like a tip from somebody where like, if you are about to like get in a fight, just start like taking your clothes off. And usually that's enough to make the other person back down.
Yeah, I would believe that.
Yeah.
I would believe that 100%.
Yeah. I also remember there was this like Stephen Fry joke. I think it's Stephen Fry, where he's like, the best way to deal with bullying is to simply tell them when they start to bully you, say, stop that. You mustn't do that. You're giving me an erection or something.
I feel like that's, I would want to make it a bit more crass.
Sure. Well, you're not a British man.
That's true. Sometimes the British can be more crass.
Like the band Crass.
I don't know. I'm unfamiliar.
They're a punk band. I don't remember. I think they are British.
Okay. I'll take it.
All yours.
Wow. Well, that's our episode of Poopcast, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Ooh, we should do a flushing toilet sound at the end of that.
Ooh, I don't have one loaded, so maybe I'll
Hush.
I'll throw one in. Wow.
Yeah.
That's some nice Foley.
Thank you. You can just call me Dave Foley.
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
Well,
I voiced Flake in A Bug's Life.
Oh, that's true, didn't he? He did, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, Paul, we're here with another episode. It's
okay.
Nostalgia Entertainment System.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
What are we at? 4 now?
We're at 4.
Is this 4 or 5?
This is 4.
Okay.
Talking about Star Wars video games.
Wow.
Not board games. Not mind games.
And not another type of game. Not game meat.
Nope.
We're talking video games. Los videojuegos, as our friends in Spain and Mexico and South America would say, and Central America.
So Spanish-speaking regions of the world.
Yes, exactly.
El videojuego.
Los videojuegos.
Wow.
But yeah, so I did some research into this, and I want to talk mostly about like Lucasfilm Games, kind of how it started, and how it turned into LucasArts, and then where it kind of, when I really stopped paying attention to what games were coming out for Star Wars. So these are games that probably came out in like the late 90s to the 2010s, just about.
Yeah, that sounds about when I would like be playing those games.
Yeah. So sorry if you're like in your 40s, maybe late 30s, and you played like some of those early NES games. I don't really know much about those. I've played them a little bit, but
this is a 2000s podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Hey, let's just dive right in, shall we?
Well, actually, before we dive in, I want to kind of get a feel for like.
Is this too soon?
No, I don't think so.
I'm going too soon. I've never done the researchy part.
That's fine. I can kind of like
coach me.
Yeah. So I guess before we dive in and before we like kind of cut to a break and then really get into it, you had mentioned earlier that you're kind of a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
You like the property. How? Because I like tangentially like it. I've never really been like super into it. I enjoy it. I'll watch the movies when they come out. I enjoyed The Mandalorian. I'll play I'll play some of the games if it's like a genre that I like.
Mm-hmm.
All this to say that I am fairly unfamiliar with not only like canon stuff, but a lot of expanded universe I am very unfamiliar with. And a lot of the games cover expanded universe. I'm pretty much all the games. I don't know. That's probably untrue, but a lot of games that people like that we'll probably talk about cover expanded universe stuff. What's your familiarity with outside of the movies?
So let's see. When I was a nerdy young middle schooler, I got really into Star Wars. Like I really liked the original trilogy as a kid when those were the only ones that were out. I used to watch them all the time. So I don't really have a memory of the first time that I even like watched those Star Wars movies, just because I like watched them from like when I was a baby until, I could start forming memories. But then once the prequel trilogy started to come out, I did not see Phantom Menace in theaters, but I did see Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith in theaters. And like that's what really like kicked me off into being like a super Star Wars nerd like at the time. So I was like reading the books. I read a few of the now Legends, because now the expanded universe is Legends according to Star Wars canon.
Oh, that's right, because they uncanonized most of it.
Yeah, which I've got a good I want to share my take on this because I've never had a platform before for this take.
You want to do it now?
I want to do it now. I'm going to interrupt myself for this take.
What was your thing?
It's a snap judgment, but this isn't really a snap judgment.
I always think it's hot takes.
No, but I'd love to do hot takes more than this. But I've got plenty of snap judgments as well. I've got a good one here later. But no, this is just my own personal take regarding Legends and canon and stuff like that. So when Disney bought Star Wars, since they were going to make the sequel trilogy, they decided that all of the expanded universe stuff was now Legends, meaning that it didn't really happen. And a lot of people were mad about that because they were like, no, that's actually what happened. Like Luke falls in love with this lady and who's a Sith, and then he turns her and then they fall in love. But it's just like weird stuff. And what I don't understand is by making all of the stuff Legends instead of canon, you don't really lose anything, because people, I think, get hung up on the fact of like what actually happened, like canonically in Star Wars. But just because you say like the expanded universe is Legends now and no longer canon, it doesn't erase all of those books. You can still easily find those books and read them and enjoy the stories in them. It's not erasing all of that stuff. It just means that it didn't, quote unquote, happen, which none of it happened at all. It's totally fictional universe. So I don't get what people are so fucking annoying about like things being legend or canon and being
because
salty.
That's their whole identity, Paul. They spent so much of their life researching and learning about a property they do not own or have any control over. And all of a sudden it's changed.
Well, it's not even changed. There's just more of it.
It did change for them.
The only thing that changed is like what quote unquote happened in this fictional world. And it doesn't really matter. And the stories that you like, you can keep reading those all you want. You don't have to watch, the new trilogy if you don't like them. You can just keep reading those. What do they call it? Like the Thrawn trilogy or something.
Yeah, because the Disney just like selectively like, that's good. We're keeping Thrawn.
Yeah, because okay, I'll get back into my knowledge of the Legends expanded universe stuff now. So when I was in like 6th grade, that's kind of when I started to read these books. So I started off reading some of these books, like the Tales from. So that was just like, it was little like short stories where you would follow a character who's on screen for like 30 seconds in a movie. It would just follow one of those characters. So there was like, for example, the first one I read, I think was Tales from Jabba's Palace. So one of those short stories was about, when Luke kills the Rancor in Return of the Jedi, and that one guy with like, he's got like a brown like hood on, and he's like really fat. Not really fat. He's just kind of fat. And he like pushes his way to go see the Rancor, and he looks very sad that the Rancor is dead.
No, I don't remember this.
Okay, well, he's in the movie for about 30 seconds. There's a whole like little short story about him and how he wants, like, his whole thing is that he didn't like that Jabba was keeping the Rancor in like a cage. He knew they needed to like run free. So he was like the Rancor's like caretaker, and he would like feed him and stuff like that. And he had actually gone to meet with a rival of Jabba the Hutt and made a plan to get the Rancor off the planet safely and stuff like that. And that was all going to happen the day after Luke got put into the pit. So Luke killed the Rancor, and then this guy is really sad because he was about to save the Rancor's life. And there's a few other, there's like one about the droid in Jabba's palace who like likes to torture other droids. There's one about the Twilight lady who dances and gets fed to the Rancor. Just all of those characters who have like 30 to 40 seconds, maybe one line of dialogue. You can find their like all about them in the Tales from Jabba's Palace. And then there's other ones. There's Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina, which covers characters from like A New Hope that you see in the cantina for like 3 seconds. There's Tales of the Bounty Hunters, which gives you a little short story about each of the bounty hunters you see in Empire Strikes Back. And all those honestly are like pretty interesting. And I think they're good in part because a lot of the characters that they write about don't really have much depth, or there wasn't much known about them. So it's easy to write a short story without really conflicting with anything or like doing something that would be maybe out of character for them, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
I think
because wasn't that like pre-Disney wasn't their thing was just like, it's got to be at least 4,000 years before the movies or something, or like something like that. Just like, then they get free reign and whatever they write about won't affect whatever stuff they actually make. Wasn't that like their rule or something?
I'm actually not familiar with that rule. I don't know what. I don't doubt it, but
I think it was either on a podcast or something that I read, but I think that was just like the rule of thumb for anyone that wanted to, like, this is pre-Disney, like wanted to write a comic or write a book or, pitch a video game or something that wasn't explicitly about the main trilogy or the prequel trilogy or whatever. I think the rule was it has to be set a certain number of years like prior. Because that way you can write whatever the hell you want, and like more than likely, or it just gives like everyone creative freedom to do what they want and not have to worry about like, well, this person talks to Luke, but then Luke in the movies does this thing that contradicts what was just written, and I guess I don't know, something like that.
Sure,
there was just like a rule of thumb that like writers or whatever just had to like follow, but I don't. Someone probably knows more about it than I do, but I think that's generally what it was.
Well, so I've heard of a different rule for like expanded universe writing. And that was that George Lucas was generally fine with most things happening, even like just right after the movies. Like, which I guess it's probably like, I'm guessing part of the rule too is probably like after Return of the Jedi, pretty much anything can happen because there's no more movies and he wasn't planning on making any more movies, you know?
Yeah, I think about maybe like X number of years before, X number of years after.
Yeah.
Maybe that kind of thing.
Yeah. But the one rule I had heard regarding expanded universe is that like you could write about Star Wars and get it like sanctioned, but you could not kill off any of the main characters, like the main 3 or 4. Like you couldn't kill off Luke, Leia, or Han.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Because there is an expanded universe novel where Chewbacca dies. He gets crushed by, I don't remember if it's a planet or a moon, but these 2 planets are colliding and he's trying to like evacuate the planet and he gets crushed by a planet.
Wow.
Which is a hell of a way to go.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I think I want to say there was some pushback about that. Like people were really mad that Chewbacca died, which it would be a bummer. I wouldn't be happy about that. But I kind of like skipped around with a lot of those books after that. Like there's this one called Dark Saber, where basically this Hutt, not Jabba the Hutt, but different Hutt, helps build a Death Star-like weapon. But instead of it being a space station, it's like pretty much just the laser up in space. It's not very good.
Was it mostly like the books that you kind of like dabbled in? Did you like read any comics? Did you... I don't know what other expanded universe media there would be, but...
Yeah, so there's comics and books, and then there's video games, which of course we'll talk about. And I read... So that was about as far as my expanded universe post-original trilogy was. But I did also read some in-between, like, Clone Wars style novels in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith as well. There's like one called like Labyrinth of Evil, which is mostly about Anakin and Obi-Wan and Grievous, I think. And it's basically a prequel, like right before Revenge of the Sith happens. Like the last few pages are like that battle that takes place above Coruscant.
Oh, like at the very beginning of the movie?
Yeah. Which was good. And then that actually also feeds directly into the Revenge of the Sith novelization, which is kind of cool because it gives you like not only like all the actions and stuff that happen, but it takes you inside every character's mind as to what they're thinking.
Oh,
which is kind of an interesting perspective to get from that. But I'm sure that the Revenge of the Sith novel is still canon, but I don't think Labyrinth of Evil is canon due to like Clone Wars and stuff like that.
I've always been curious about novelization because I would like, whenever I'd go to Barnes and Noble and then they like have a display out and then I'd see like the original trilogy in book form.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't help but think like, but they're already a movie. Like, why would I want to read the movie? Because I guess I also didn't consider that the author would have been given some liberty as to like add things. Because my thought was like, well, it's just going to be reading the movie. So why would I want to do that if it's not going to be any different?
Yeah, I think part of it must have been like when it first came out, like you could watch the movie, but then like nobody had like a home video player. So next best thing is to get the book so you can read the book again instead of watching the movie.
When
they did novelizations for the movies like right after the movies were coming out.
Oh, I thought these were like a recent thing.
No. They've done that since the very beginning.
Oh, damn.
Since like the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's actually a sequel to A New Hope called Splinter of the Mind's Eye, I think. It was like done with permission by George Lucas, with permission from George Lucas by an author. I don't remember the author's name, but it's like it takes place on like this weird evil planet, and Luke and Leia like go to investigate, and like Darth Vader finds them there, and it's like totally not. It's not canon because it's not actually what happens. The actual sequel is Empire Strikes Back, but in it, it's really weird. I have it, and I've only read the first like 50 pages because it's really weird knowing what else happens. Like Luke is very horny for Leia in this one.
Oh my.
He like thinks a lot about her like quivering voice and like her like beautiful face and like nice body. It makes it very weird to think like, oh, that's your sister. Not that there's already not tons of weird stuff like that in Star Wars already. And that is a thing too, where for all the rules and stuff that George Lucas had for what people could write about Star Wars so it doesn't conflict, he did not follow any rules with his own movies because they're all over the place in so many ways.
They're his movies.
And and I'm sure we'll have an episode about the prequels or something. But what I don't understand is, so he made the original trilogy and then he made the prequels after that. There are so many things in the prequels that he could have done differently. I don't know. I don't have a specific thing, but like he could have just done things better because the original trilogy was there and he could have done things to make more sense. He didn't have to contradict himself is what I'm saying. It's like if he had just watched the movies and then written the prequels, would have been a lot better.
He doesn't need to watch them. They're all up in his head.
Yeah, and he did not remember them well, apparently.
Man, the only
that's probably very rambly. I'm sure that there are going to be lots of angry Star Wars nerds who are going to tell me how wrong I was about any of that stuff, which I haven't read it in years, so I was probably wrong with a lot of it. But I stand by every word I said.
As you should.
Yeah.
The only book that I ever read, and I didn't even finish reading it because I don't know, I was probably too young to start reading a book like this, but it was a book about Darth Maul. I don't remember the name of the book. I just remember seeing it at the bookstore and thinking yeah, Darth Maul is cool. I want to know more about him.
He is cool. He's cool as hell.
Yeah. So I got the book and I didn't really notice this until maybe 50 pages in. I guess I'll preface this with I'm not a big reader. I don't particularly like reading, and I think it's mostly because I can't find books that I have an interest in. The subject matter is never interesting enough for me to be yeah, I'm gonna play a book instead of, or read a book instead of play a video game. Not my preferred method of entertainment.
Sure.
So being unfamiliar, this is how unfamiliar I was with books, where I bought this Darth Maul book and it's paperback, and I thought that it was just normal for some books to have the first 50, 70 pages just be a little thinner, and not thinner as in page, the physical page thickness. I'm talking about length and width. If you have a book that's 5 inches wide or whatever,
mm-hmm.
and I thought it was normal for the first 50 pages to be 4.8 inches wide, just a little bit thinner.
Wait, oh, that's weird. It was just a poorly designed book?
I think this was just a fucked up copy of this book because I would start reading it and some of the words would just be I would reach the end of the page and then continue on and it would just jump.
Oh, so you were missing 2 or 3 words?
I was missing sentence. Words, but I didn't realize. I remember thinking am I just too dumb to understand what this book is trying to tell me? And I kept bouncing back and forth between I'm just not old enough to read this book and this is definitely missing a word. But it was like that for 2 chapters. Wow. And I was just reading, this doesn't make any sense to me. And that just at the beginning just put me off towards reading this book. Yeah, I think that book is still at my parents' house. Maybe I grabbed it and it's somewhere here now.
I would love to see just how fucked up this book was.
Yeah, it was just so strange. And I don't know. I just thought that was just a normal thing. Oh yeah, the first part of some books is just you have smaller pages for whatever reason.
Kid logic is funny like that.
Yeah, and that's just normal. But once I got past that part, it eventually did start to get to the point of I don't know what's going on anymore. And I think that all throughout school, I think I had trouble with reading comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting so much more noticeable now, especially when I do try to read a book and I'll have to read the same paragraph 7 times to process what I just read.
That does happen to me sometimes too.
What I found really helps me now for this book that I'm reading on and off for the past 3 years is I have that on audiobook and I'll listen to the audiobook and read along with the physical book. I found that helps me.
That's a good idea.
Understand and be more engaged in what I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, maybe I should try to return to that book and try and understand what's going on. But
the Darth Maul book?
The Darth Maul book, yeah. Because So I just thought, like, man, I want to know more about Darth Maul because he's real cool. I'm gonna read this book that is written for people that are like our age now, and instead I got a fucked up copy and I could never read it.
Is it called Darth Maul Shadowhunter?
It is Shadowhunter. I'm pretty sure. That looks familiar. Darth Maul is really cool.
He is cool, and it bums me out to think that they came up with a really cool villain in the Phantom Menace, and then they kill him immediately. She could have been there for a longer time. Could have been there for
but they do bring him back.
Well, they do eventually in Clone Wars,
and he comes back cooler.
He does, but I mean, it's kind of limiting to have him, I think, in the cartoon series.
That is true. It does Maul a disservice.
Yeah, there are plenty of episodes in that are good, but there's also plenty of episodes in that are absolutely terrible. So, and it is, when it boils down to it, it is a children's show. And I know that Star Wars is also movies for children, essentially for like 12-year-olds. But I feel like there's just something about like the villains in Star Wars that really, they can really thrive on screen in a movie much more so than they can in a cartoon.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. And I mean, it might be different if it was like, I don't know, maybe not CGI or something, or if it wasn't necessarily a kid's cartoon. But the fact that it is, and it was
a little bit of a damper.
Yeah. But whatever.
Yeah. Well, I guess on that note, you want to take a little break and then come back with some video game talk?
Yeah. Let's do it.
You know the heroes, you know the villains, but did you know thousands are playing the revolutionary Star Wars Galaxies online game? Now you can join the action. Create your own character from one of 10 species. Choose a profession, take challenging missions, and even advance to the level of Jedi. Join thousands online 24/7 in the exciting, easy-to-play Star Wars experience that changes based on the way you play. Where the movies left off, your journey begins. Star Wars Galaxy Starter Kit, rated T for Teen.
You've always wanted the powers of a Jedi. On May 5th, you'll get them. All the powers of the Force are yours as you battle your way through the ultimate Jedi action experience. Star Wars Episode 3, the video game. Before you see the movie, live it. Rated T for Teen.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that little break.
Yeah.
I sure did.
Hope you went to the bathroom, got a foot rub, whatever it is you need to do to keep listening to this show.
Yeah. Please keep listening.
Psych yourself up, dive on in, and just do it already. All right. So we got Star Wars video games. So I just want to focus on Lucas Arts here mostly, which was for the time period we were mostly talking about. That was what produced most of these Star Wars games. So it was originally founded in 1982 as Lucasfilm Games by George Lucas. Because he was trying to find other entertainment venues besides the movies to expand Star Wars into. And so video games was kind of an avenue for that.
Which, if you listen to our episode on Humongous Entertainment, we did mention Lucas, I guess Lucas, what is it? Lucas Games?
Lucasfilm Games.
Lucasfilm Games, wherever like what that, or I guess, yeah.
It changed a couple
like Lucas Arts at some point, but we mentioned this company because some alumni from this company ended up moving on to make Humongous Entertainment. So if you want to know a little bit more about, I guess, that offshoot, listen to episode 2. But here we are now, listening to Paul tell us about Lucasfilm Games.
Yeah. So even though Lucasfilm Games was like started well, I guess that's not necessarily true. I was going to say in my mind, I always think of Lucasfilm or LucasArts as producing solely Star Wars, but the first few games that Lucasfilm Games produced were not Star Wars games. There were games produced for the Star Wars movies, like Super Star Wars, stuff like that. But that was actually, I think it was Atari that did those games, I want to say. But yeah, so Lucasfilm Games did not develop the first Star Wars video games. Their first released games were games called Ball Blazer and Rescue on Fractalus.
Oh.
Fast forward a couple of years, and Lucasfilm Games produced their first game based on a movie. Not Star Wars, though. It was Labyrinth. Labyrinth, the video game.
Yeah, is that the David Bowie
Yeah. Like
Okay.
it was so it's got David Bowie as the Goblin King and other Jim Henson creatures doing stuff. So Lucasfilm Games originally made those. And then finally in the 90s, the first Star Wars games started coming out. The first one, so this is like,
wow, it took that long.
Yeah, it was like 10 years after Return of the Jedi came out, they started making Star Wars video games. Because I guess somebody was probably like, hey, we should probably do this.
I guess when you think about it, it wasn't really that far off. Because like, I don't know. I'm thinking specifically of like the NES when that would have gotten like popular, and when like home gaming would have gotten popular would have been like mid to early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not that far off. That's less than 10 years until we start getting some Star Wars games. So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. And so in 1990, the company officially changed its name to LucasArts, which is what I'll refer to it as from now on. So LucasArts' first Star Wars game that it produced was a game called X-Wing, which was successful, and it spawned many more. So there's definitely a lot of X-Wing, like fighter pilot type games, which incorporate, mostly flying in an X-Wing or some other spacecraft, and then also some like first person shooter style levels. So there is a series which I was really into as a kid, the Rebel Assault series of games, which followed. This is really interesting, I think. So in an expanded universe, you still got like the main cast of characters. You've got Han, Luke, and Leia, stuff like that. In the Rebel Assault series, you follow a character named Rookie One, who is who you're playing as. And so Rookie One does all of the things that Luke Skywalker does instead of him. So it's basically like if Star Wars didn't have Luke Skywalker, it just had this guy whose nickname is Rookie One, and nobody ever bothers to ask him what his actual first name is. So he does things like he blows up the first Death Star and stuff like that, which I think is really interesting. And then there is a second game, Rebel Assault 2, where you also play as Rookie One, which I think it's funny that he's a rookie still, even though he blew up the Death Star. Just a thing. Childhood.
What system was this for? Did you say that?
Oh no. So this was I know for sure it was for, I think it was mostly a computer game, as a lot of these were. I think they did
like
release,
Windows.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was made by LucasArts for so Apple, Sega CD, and 3DO interactive multiplayer systems.
Wow, 3DO.
Yeah, as well as for Windows. But yeah, so that was probably my first foray into Star Wars video games myself. Yeah, there was a whole line of storyline, or a whole line of like video games and also books kind of from this era about like Rogue Squadron and other like rebel like fighter pilots, and just like the groups or the characters involved, like Wedge, Antilles from A New Hope and from Return of the Jedi, and a few other characters, which is kind of a cool time to explore that. But that stuff is also all Legends now, I believe.
Were there any games that were considered canon? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't. At least not for, I think maybe at one point before Disney bought them, there was some stuff in Battlefront 2 that was Legends, or that was canon, and then it's not now.
I think that newest one that came out, I think that's canon? I actually have no idea.
The Rogue Squadron? Is that what that's called?
No, it's
or Battlefront 2?
No, the like newest single player.
Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
I've never played that one, so I don't know.
Oh, I've heard good things about it.
Yeah.
You can play it on your Xbox.
Maybe I will. So this was also around the same time that they got their like infamous gold guy logo.
Infamous.
I think it's infamous. Is it not infamous? In my mind, it's like tied. It's like right up there with me in the LucasArts logo. It's the purple angle, and then the gold guy is standing there holding up like the LucasArts sign. It's at the beginning of every Star Wars.
Yeah, it looks like an eyeball.
Sort of.
Like the guy's head is like the pupil, and then he's holding up a thing that looks like...
Yeah, with the thing that says...
Yeah.
Or that says, but it's got like the lines there.
Yeah, like it looks like eyelashes. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a sun.
Yeah, no, I guess I don't know what it is either, but I just have never thought about it looking like an eyeball. But yeah, so in most of those games, like the logo will do something different. Like sometimes in one game I had Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds, which is like a real-time strategy game. There's a battle droid that pushes him over and then he shoots at the screen.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything happen with like the guy.
Oh, well, there's like in Pod Racer, I think the like pod racers like race by and he like drops his eyelashes or whatever you want to call them.
Wow.
There's all sorts of stuff that happens in many of them.
I feel like I've only ever seen like a weird light effect where it just like shines from behind it and then you see like rays come out. And then that's like the only thing I've ever seen with that logo. I've never seen like any animations with the guy.
Interesting. Yeah,
At least not that I can think of. Huh.
I bet you could. I bet there's a YouTube compilation if you wanted to look it up.
That's true. There probably is one out there.
Mm-hmm. So fast forward a little bit to the early 2000s. This is when Star Wars started making, or LucasArts started making some of the most popular and enduring Star Wars games. So this was the time when they built, or when they made Knights of the Old Republic, the first one, and also they began to develop Battlefront, like the original Star Wars Battlefront.
Did you play any more of Knights of the Old Republic?
No, not yet.
Oh.
I have not been very motivated to.
That makes sense. Yeah. I played a little bit last week in preparation for this, just to like kind of, I don't know, jog my memory a little bit more, kind of maybe get me in like, you know, the headspace. I intended to like play a whole lot more and try and finish it, but that game is paced like so slowly.
Yeah.
Where like there are times where I can play that game for hours, like during the day. And then there are other times where it's like I can do 20 minutes and that's it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think I would have really liked it if I played it like in middle school, like when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have had a lot of fun. But I just didn't have it. So I didn't play it.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have it either, and I think I had mentioned this before, but I had borrowed my friend's Xbox, and with it, he also let me borrow some games. I know for sure that he had KOTOR 2, and I played that all the way through. And I think maybe I played 1. I don't remember a lot of playing 1, but when I was playing it this last week, there's a part on Tatooine where you need to go to a sand people enclave. And that was very familiar to me. And I don't know if that's because that same area is also in KOTOR 2, or if maybe I also did play all the way through 1 and I just don't remember. But I really like that. I still really like that game. That game also introduced me to like Western style RPGs. I don't know if that's like, I don't know. For clarity's sake, I'll refer to them as Western RPGs, because up until that point, I had only really played like Final Fantasies and like Japanese RPGs, where everything is more turn based. Like the story structure is different, the gameplay mechanics are different. And this along with Morrowind, which I also borrowed from that same friend, really introduced me to playing just like a different kind of role-playing game. Which, I don't know, I think it was because I had played those types of games like later. To this day, I still prefer JRPGs over games like Skyrim.
Interesting.
Like I don't know, just like the design philosophies behind them, on top of like the mechanics and how you interact with the world and how the story is told with a lot of those types of games, to me is a little too open-ended, where I can't keep focused, just because like there's so many side things to do, and there's so many like it really is much more of like a role-playing game than like a JRPG is, where it's like there are set characters and there's set like a set main character who has a name, and you play like through their story. Where in Western RPGs, I'd say that you're more role playing because you are the character. Like
right.
The character you make is, for all intents and purposes, you. It's the player insert. But I don't know. There's just like something way too open ended about that for me, where for a lot of the times I just cannot stay focused and just like continue through the end. But Kotor 2 apparently was an exception. I remember really liking that.
Yeah, maybe it's just focused enough. Like it just guides you enough to where.
Yeah. I don't know. There was also like, I don't know what it was about it. Because like I had mentioned earlier, not a fan of reading. That game has a lot of reading.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Like, even though a lot of it is voice acted, a lot of it you still just need to read. And like, even now I'm just like playing through it. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I don't want to read all this. And what really gets to me is that in KOTOR 1, your character just happens to know a ton of languages.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone that speaks any language that isn't basic, you just get the subtitles for. To me, it's just like, really frustrating. It's just like, no, but you understand it. Just speak basic, so I don't have to keep reading this. Because like, what if it's really important, but I get distracted hearing like a Twi'lek speak in Twi'lek, and I'm having to like also read the subtitles while hearing. I don't know.
It's just like a dubbed anime.
It is, but the thing is,
or a non-dubbed anime.
Subbed
anime.
Yeah, I mean the thing is though, that is a very fair comparison. But unlike Twi'lek, I can understand some Japanese, so it's a lot easier for me to follow along.
Okay, so you're saying that if you were part Twi'lek instead of part Japanese,
yeah, if I could speak Twi'lek and Huttese, and those are the only two languages I can. There are no Gungans in KOTOR.
Oh, I didn't know we were limiting it to to KOTOR. What if there was a Gungan? God,
just the one.
Yeah,
Jar Jar's first appearance.
I mean, is it established how long they live? What if he's thousands of years old?
That'd be pretty bomb bad.
Bomb badass, dude. But yeah, so yeah, the KOTOR games were really popular. The first one, especially, I think, really was a standout for them. At LucasArts, excuse me. It doesn't help me that they changed their names multiple times. There was a lot of Rogue Squadron games that were planned and also canceled. So that would be games similar to like the Rebel Assault, Assault 2.
Have you played a Rogue Squadron game?
No, I have not. And I actually don't know. I think I might have misspoke earlier. There was a lot of games like Star Wars, like TIE Fighter and stuff like that, where you flew around in a spaceship, but I don't know if there was actually a game called Rogue Squadron.
There was.
Was there?
There's 3 of them.
Oh, good.
In fact,
maybe I'm thinking of later games then.
Yeah, because I've never played Rogue Squadron, but I did play like a demo version of Rogue Squadron that came with like a bonus disc, or that was on a bonus disc that came with Mario Kart Double Dash.
Oh.
And it was just a demo disc that you would find at like the store, where like, here's a bunch of like trailers you can watch, and you can like play one level of Kirby's Air Ride, and you can play all these other games. And one of them was you could play the Hoth scene from Rogue Squadron 3, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I never played that.
Yeah. So you're like you're in a snow speeder, I think. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're in a snow speeder, and then you fly around an AT-AT, and then you wrap your cable around it, make it fall. And yeah. And then it's like another part where I think you're playing as Luke. You've got to be playing as Luke in this demo. I remember there's one part where Luke would get out of the snow speeder, and he would have to be on foot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Someone like stopped an AT-AT, or maybe it just wasn't moving or something like that. But I remember that you would have to like run under the AT-AT, and Luke would like shoot a cable up to like the underbelly, pull himself up, and he would take out his lightsaber and like hit a panel or something, and then just like mess with some mechanics, and then rappel back down.
In there, right?
Oh, maybe he throws a grenade. I don't remember.
Well, that's what happens in the movie.
Yeah, he probably does that.
Yeah.
And then rappels back down or whatever. It's like, this is like a really fun. I remember like wanting to like play the full game, because like this demo like really sold me.
And what was that for? Was that for the computer?
It was for GameCube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I never had a GameCube. So I see where I made my mistake. I scrolled down too far in my notes. So after they began development on things like Battlefront, in 2004, a man named Jim Ward became the new president of LucasArts. And so he was in charge of restructuring the company because they were becoming dwarfed by Halo. Because apparently LucasArts made only $100 million during this time period. I'm not sure if that's like a year or just like a few years, but apparently Halo made like much, much more than that.
Oh yeah, no, Halo. I mean, now Halo is still super popular.
Yeah, it's huge, super popular, but it dwarfed how much money Star Wars had made. So they put him in charge of restructuring the company and get it back on track. And so there had been many more Rogue Squadron games planned, and he canceled all of them multiple times. And so right after this was when Battlefront was released, along with another game called Republic Commando and the video game version of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. So Battlefront is a shooter game. So it was like one of the first like really like first person shooter games that Star Wars did for like Xbox and PlayStation 2 and for the computer. Is that a thing people say, or should I be saying Windows?
PC is usually the term.
Okay.
For any game on a computer.
Well, so it was made for PC and Xbox and PlayStation 2. And so the goal of this game was, you could have different classes that you could play as, and you could play as the Rebels, or you could play as the Empire, you could play as the CIS or the Battle Droids and the Republic.
Do you know what CIS stands for?
Confederacy of Independent Systems.
Oh, huh.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah. So that game like really was like super popular. Like everybody loved it. I know I had that game like when it came out, and it really, I think, helped relaunch like the Star Wars video game franchise and really make it a lot more popular, I think, for people who didn't necessarily like the movies or really care about the storyline. It was so popular that they did another one 4 years later, Battlefront 2, which honestly, in my opinion, that's probably like my favorite Star Wars game of all time.
I think it's a lot of people's favorite Star Wars game.
Yeah.
That's definitely the one that I have played the most. I remember like that same friend whose Xbox I borrowed, just like spending the night at his house, and myself and him and like a couple of other friends would just like stay up all night like playing Battlefront. Like that was so much fun.
Get some Mountain Dew
Pitch Black. Well, that would have been about the same time as like
I was more of a Code Red kind of guy.
Ooh, this was not a lot of people remember Pitch Black, but I loved Mountain Dew Pitch Black.
I think I saw Pitch Black in the store. I don't think I ever.
Yeah, that was around the time that Halo 3 came out. So what we would do is we would like spend half the day playing Halo 3 and then half the day playing Battlefront 2.
Damn, that sounds like a great day.
Yeah, that's what I remember like summers being like. We would just all go to someone's house, play a bunch of Battlefront, and drink a ton of Mountain Dew and eat a bunch of pizza rolls.
That sounds great.
Great time.
I would do that now. Although I probably wouldn't drink much Mountain Dew.
I haven't had Mountain Dew in so long.
Me neither. I haven't had, well, that's not true. I had a Sprite yesterday. I was going to say I haven't had soda in a long time.
Have you played this Battlefront, like the Battlefront 2 Classic? Have you played it recently?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have it on my Xbox right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And before that, I had borrowed it from a friend and was playing it on PlayStation.
Wow.
Yeah. And I will say it holds up. They've actually done some modifications to it. If you buy it on the Xbox online store now, they've added some new heroes and villains, which you can play as.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because Battlefront 2 for PC has a huge modding scene.
Really?
Yep. So there's like, I don't remember specifically what things they've added. The one thing that I know for sure is like a graphics update, and like all the textures are improved. So like the game just looks a lot better. Performance, I think there's like performance improvements. I think they've added planets and they've added like a whole bunch of stuff. So at least for like Battlefront 2 Classic, that modding scene on PC is very active.
I think that they must have taken some of that and put it towards the Xbox version that I have now. which I bought on the Microsoft store because they took 2 of the planets that used to be on Battlefront 1, but were not featured in Battlefront 2. They took Bespin and Renvar, and they added it to Battlefront 2, which is really cool. And then they also added Kit Fisto as a playable Jedi.
Yeah.
And then they also added Asajj Ventress as a Sith to play as.
Oh, that name is familiar.
She's in the Clone Wars a lot. She's bald white lady.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. What is a bummer, though, about those 2 is that they did not add them both into the hero villains battle in Battlefront 2. Do you remember that where you got Mos Eisley Assault?
Yeah.
You gotta be all the heroes versus all the villains. That's like, I feel like that was a majority of the time what we'd play as. Like when you had a bunch of friends over, you would all just take turns playing as heroes.
You could jump like 15 times if you were Yoda.
Yeah. And Boba Fett could go like up so high on his jetpack.
I've never liked playing the non-Jedi like heroes. I never thought that they were that fun to play as because they never felt any stronger than normal infantry. Like playing as Han, I never thought like, I'm like tearing ass through these like troops. Never felt that way.
I think that there were some characters who I definitely thought I could play as really well, like some of the heroes that were non-Jedi, like Boba Fett and Han Solo. I think were probably my best 2 non-Jedi heroes to play in that. Honestly, Boba Fett I got really good at because he basically just had the enhanced blaster rifle and a jetpack. The enhanced blaster rifle being the award rifle you get when you do
that. Mobility is good.
Go get enough in the game. Yeah. So I did really well with Boba Fett, and then Han Solo had like the really good pistol, so I felt like that was pretty helpful. But really, like the block that you can do with the Jedi, and then just the jumping.
Yeah, you got force powers. You got
it really
a
is
lightsaber. I don't know. It just all felt so much. You just felt more powerful playing as a Jedi or like a Sith than you do just like a person with a gun.
Yeah,
that is in the movie.
Yeah,
I don't know. Did you ever play Galactic Conquest? That was my favorite mode.
Yes, yeah.
Loved Galactic Conquest.
I was just doing Galactic Conquest the other day.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a shame that they didn't put Galactic Conquest in like the new Battlefronts.
I know. I was looking through there because I got the second one recently, and there's you can do like missions, and you can do like little like snippets from like the movies and stuff like that, kind of like you could in the old ones.
Yeah.
Like not behind the scenes necessarily, but like scenes that are referred to in the movie. They let you play some of those.
Yeah. Like the new Battlefront 2 has a mode. It's Galactic Assault, I think. And it's like a tug of war kind of deal where like there's like objectives. When you meet that objective, you like go to the opposing faction's ship. And then on that ship, you have a bunch of objectives and you need to clear those to win. But if you fail, you just move back and then it can go back and forth, like that whole kind of deal. That's okay. But there's just something about like, I don't know, taking over planets and like getting bonuses and getting power ups for.
Yeah, you get paid to do that. Yeah. Shit.
Galactic Conquest was just so much like that's what we would play more than like heroes versus villains. We would play just hours of Galactic Conquest.
Sure.
Super fun mode.
I remember I had a friend who we would play Galactic Conquest against each other, and we wouldn't ever be playing like for like the whole day. We'd be playing for like a couple hours here and there, like when I was over at his house. And the annoying thing about Battlefront 2 was when you loaded up a Galactic Conquest, you re-chose the sides that you were on. Like it would say like player 1, are you going to be the Republic or are you going to be the CIS? And what he would do is he would set it up while I was like going to the bathroom or something and make him playing as the team that I had been playing on before, the winning team.
Oh my God.
So I'd get him down to like 2 planets and then we'd have to stop. And then the next day he would just switch us and he would be playing as the Republic.
Oh,
I'd be like,
God.
What the fuck? What? It was like that annoying shit where I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, nope, I'm going to play as them now. And it was like annoying, but also I was like, fine, I'm going to kick your ass anyway.
Did you?
And then I would.
Yeah.
That was the only video game where I was that good at it, but
serves him right.
Yeah, like came back from the brink of destruction and
yeah, serves him right.
But yeah, so Battlefront 1 and 2, both super good games. Also around this time in 2005, we had Lego Star Wars released, which was probably my second favorite Star Wars game, I think. Did you ever play Lego Star Wars?
No, and I don't understand the appeal of the Lego games.
I agree, except for Lego Star Wars.
I just don't I don't get it. I don't get why people like them. I don't know what is so unique about the Lego games other than like, oh look, it's like they're Legos now.
Well, so this was like the first Lego, not first Lego video game, but the first like Lego video game about a franchise, I believe. So what was interesting about it was almost like you were watching little Lego people like put on a play of Star Wars. And there was they don't talk in this one. They talk now, I guess. I don't know. I haven't played any Lego video games in a very long time. But in this one, the first one, they only did the prequels. So they do episode 1, 2, and 3. And then they basically do like little vignettes for as far as the story goes. And it's just like really goofy and they don't talk at all. They all like mime out everything. Sometimes they grunt and go like, or something like that. But it's just like really silly, and anybody who's playing it probably knows the storyline of Star Wars, so they are like, oh yeah, that is kind of funny. And there was just like so many playable characters that you could unlock, and then they each had like kind of different special abilities. It was probably like the only game I've ever played where I unlocked every character.
I do remember seeing, because I think my friends had it or something, I do remember seeing the character roster, and there's like 40 characters or something that like,
yeah,
you can play as, which is crazy.
Yeah. And so like, I don't really understand it with like something like Indiana Jones or Batman, because then you max out probably at like 8 characters. But yeah, with Star Wars, like you could be Obi-Wan, you could be Qui-Gon, you could be Jar Jar, you could be Padme, you could be R2-D2, you could be a Gonk droid, you could be C-3PO, you could be General Grievous, you could be Darth Sidious. Just like so many major and minor characters. And just like, it was really fun because it was really realistic for kids to be able to like unlock them. I feel like you didn't have to put in a ton of hours, like getting credits or getting money in it to like really like flesh out the game and like really stack up your character roster, like where you might have if it was like a different kind of game.
Yeah, like the new Battlefront before they changed everything.
Exactly.
They want to give those children a sense of satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. And so
when they unlock their favorite character.
Yeah. And it is a game that is really easy to complete, like little, not quests, but like just little objectives. And then it's like really satisfying when you get that. Like you might buy a character, or you might find all of the credits in a level, or there was these little like mini capsules where you could find, I think there was like 10 in each level. And if you found all 10, you got a special spaceship that it like constructed. So there was just like tons of stuff to do in the game, and it was all very satisfying. And the game itself was just like fun to play. It's like a combination side scroller first person.
Yeah. I think like a couple weeks ago, there was a new trailer for a new like Lego Star Wars game that's coming out.
Because they have had,
and it's like all the movies. It's like all 9 of them now.
It's
like
the Skywalker saga.
One game.
Yeah, because originally they had the first Lego Star Wars, then they had Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, and then they had like a Clone Wars one, and then they did a whole Force Awakens one. I'm not sure if they did one for The Last Jedi. Maybe they just decided to wait and then they just put them all in the Skywalker saga. But I know weirdly they did have just a Lego Star Wars The Last Jedi on its own instead of giving it its own sequel trilogy.
Because when I saw that trailer, I thought the game had already been released, like with all 9 movies. And I was really surprised to see like, oh, I guess here's just another Lego Star Wars game. But I do remember thinking that like the game looked really good. Like, oh, like,
yeah, I'm sure they like sharpened it all up and everything, because the original one came out in 2005. So yeah, it still probably has those graphics. Honestly, there are parts of it that are still really fun. And there's like a lot of ship battles, like a lot of space battles you could do in Lego Star Wars. That was fun. Yeah.
Cool.
In 2008-ish, there was a pre-production of Battlefront 3 through the company Free Radical. But apparently LucasArts had a falling out with that company. So Battlefront 3 never happened. Never came out.
And then Battlefront just in general didn't happen until like 2016.
Yeah. Well, so there were around the same time period too, there were some like real-time strategy games like Galactic Battlegrounds, which I had growing up, and Empire at War, which was basically like Age of Empires, but Star Wars.
I remember really wanting to get Empire at War because that was around the time that like I was playing a lot of Battlefront 2, and I like started this is around the time that I started really getting into Star Wars, and this is probably the most I've ever been into Star Wars. And I can quantify that in a way, or I can quantify that because I would just spend time on Wikipedia. Just reading. That's
too.
it.
Yeah.
I remember like sitting at my parents' computer on Wikipedia, finally learning what BBY meant. And like what is this? And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Now what's Battle of Yavin? And just kept reading everything on that website.
Mm-hmm.
So this was like the most I've ever been into it. And that was the time where I was like, oh, new Star Wars game coming out. I gotta get it, but
gotta get it.
Had a shitty PC, so
yeah,
couldn't play it.
There are multiple games that I tried to buy for PC growing up because for a long time I didn't have a console or a good enough PC to play games. So I bought things like, there was a couple Star Wars games that I bought and tried to play in my computer. And then I bought like Lord of the Rings, Return of the King on PC. And I would always try to install it on my parents' computer, and it wouldn't work because my parents had a garbage computer. And so their solution, which now that I think about it is like a terrible idea, was to take it to my grandma's house because her computer worked better.
Oh.
But also, so my parents' computer had like Windows 2000, and this is like 2005. So there's been updates to Windows that aren't Windows 2000 anymore. There's like Windows XP, which is like that's like what you want. My grandma had Windows 98. So
she had better hardware, but an older operating system.
I don't think that's what I understood it to be as a kid. And now as an adult, I'm like, no, she just had an older operating system. That was the only difference. And so it would never work at her house either. And so I would always just waste money on these video games, and they would never work.
That's a shame.
And luckily I would take them back to Walmart with my dad, and usually they would return it fine, but sometimes they would give a scuff, and he would argue for me and be like, well, it didn't work on our computer, which totally our fault. Like it says on the thing, like for this operating system, not for this one. Totally our bad. But those Walmart people were generally pretty nice and gave us our money back.
That's good.
Yeah. So did you ever play Empire at War, or did you?
I think that same friend eventually got it. And I remember watching him play it and then realizing like, oh, I don't like this kind of game.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
I
never thought about it again.
I had Galactic Battlegrounds, and so I've never played Empire at War, but I imagine they're very similar.
Probably just like an RTS kind of game, right?
Yeah, exactly. So in it, like you have to harvest like resources to be able to like build things and stuff. And my older brother taught me a cheat that you could use to get basically unlimited resources. In Age of Empires, I think you have to type in like specific like phrases like for each resource that you want to get. But in Star Wars, it's much easier. You just put in the word force and then the resource, whatever you want. You just type that into the little chat box.
Oh, yep.
And so if you just hit enter, the chat box would come up like immediately, and you could type in whatever you want. So what I would do is I would hit enter, type in force or, and then you copy and paste it, Control C, and then hit enter. You get 1,000 of it. You hit enter again, Control V.
Wow.
So I would do that. Like,
it defaults to 1,000. Is 1,000 a lot?
Yeah, it's up there. It's okay. Like it would take you probably like a few minutes in the game to mine that much.
Okay.
So what I do is I just sit there, Control V, enter, Control V, do that with all of the resources until I've got at least like 30,000 of each.
Oh my God.
So,
wow.
And then I just would build a bunch of, like troops and go wipe out the enemy. And for a long time, I was convinced I was really good at this game because I was just cheating out the ass. So after this, after 2008, there was some rumors of different Star Wars games that were going to come out. There was one called Star Wars 1313, which was supposedly going to use the Unreal Engine 3, which is a video game engine used to build video games. I, full disclosure, did not know what that was and still don't really, but Josh told me.
Yeah. Isn't Fallen Order essentially what 1313 was going to be?
It could be.
I feel like I remember reading that like Fallen Order was like, this is after passing hands between developers. This is eventually what became of 1313. I don't know if that's true. And if people were just speculating that like Fallen Order is actually the like what is left of 13. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think maybe there were like some articles that were like, here are like the similarities between what we knew about 1313 and what's in Fallen Order. I don't know, sure. But I think there may be some connection between the two. That's probably something for further reading, but
yeah. Well, on a similar note, so there was supposed to be a Boba Fett video game.
I've heard about the Boba Fett game
that people were pretty excited for, and it was going to take place like in the like lower depths of Coruscant, like the seedy underbelly of the Republic.
Ooh.
Well, it wouldn't have been the Republic at that time, but anyway, I have heard a theory on Reddit, everybody's favorite and least favorite website.
That's true.
I doubt it's anybody's favorite website. I hope it's not. God, what a shit.
Not anymore.
Maybe back in the day.
It was my favorite website back in the day.
Yeah, there was a time when, boy, my voice all of a sudden just got real raspy. I've been talking a lot this episode. But what was I talking about? Reddit? Okay, so on Reddit, I read some comments where people hypothesized that they took, when they were making The Mandalorian, it seems like they might have taken scenes from the video game, the Boba Fett video game, and just kind of rewrote it a little bit to make it a live action series instead. Because a lot of the stuff does seem to happen almost as if it was a video game. There's like logical like levels, and there's kind of like an intro sequence and stuff, and then you have to go do this task. Then there's like an objective that you meet, and it does feel almost very video gamey, at least the first few episodes,
depending,
in my opinion.
I don't know anything about the Boba Fett game other than like it was supposed, it could have been a thing. But depending on how the Boba Fett game was made, they like if it was made in Unreal, they could have pretty easily repurposed any assets or like environments that they built, because the Mandalorian, a lot of the Mandalorian was filmed using Unreal. So it's like super cool technology. So this is kind of a tangent that has nothing to do with games, but just like is fun, like information just in general. But like how old movies, like if someone was in a car driving and, you know, you wouldn't have someone actually driving, what they would do, because they couldn't green screen anything back then, they would just do like a rear projection where they would just have footage of someone driving, or just like the view out of the window, and they would just project that onto a screen behind the car so it looks like they're moving. A lot of the scenes in The Mandalorian are essentially the same thing, but instead with a giant LED panel. And so what they'll do is on a computer and in Unreal, they'll create an environment like that. I don't remember the name of the planet, but that one deserty place where that one small guy that says "I have spoken" or whatever. I don't remember.
I want to hear you recap The Mandalorian just in general. I don't remember the name of that planet either. But if I was in middle school, I would be able to tell you everything about it.
But that planet, like they filmed in like they had the guy who was what's the guy that plays the Mandalorian?
Oh boy, I just call him Mando.
Yeah, they had that guy in a room in front of a giant LED panel, and that panel was projecting this environment that they built in Unreal, and the camera that they're using is a virtual camera, and it is synced up, like the position of the camera is synced up with the environment in Unreal. So that when they move the camera, it also tracks what is behind the actor.
Whoa.
So they're filming both like this LED background that is synced up perfectly with this camera, so that they film an actor and they can film this entire desert scene in the middle of a studio and have it look like perfectly flawless.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's
that's like Star Trek holodeck shit.
It is, because the thing that's also really cool about it is that you also get like accurate reflections on like his armor and his helmet. You get like the correct kind of lighting. Everything can be done like with this cool like virtual camera, and I just think that's like, I don't know. I know nothing about filmmaking, but to me that's just super cool. that you can take this video game engine and like take an environment, pair it with a camera, and with a real camera, film a real person in a virtual like environment.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's like the thing that I feel like it's like truly amazing today, and it is truly amazing. But like in like 30 years, like some fucking like 8-year-old will be like talking about how cool that was, and they'll be like, yeah, I do that all the time with my friends. Like that's how we make our movies. And it'll be like the equivalent of how like everybody has a computer in their pocket today, but like back in the 70s, it took up a whole room.
8-year-olds are making these like VR movies with their brain chips.
Yeah. And we're like, no, don't put the brain chip in us. And they're like, okay, old people, whatever.
All right, Zoomer.
Speaking of me being an old grouchy person, so recently around the same time, this is probably like 2012-ish, Disney acquired Star Wars. And there was definitely a lapse in Star Wars video games here, including but not limited to some mobile games that Disney started to release for Star Wars. So they produced some quality gems like Angry Birds Star Wars and Angry Birds Star Wars 2 and Tiny Death Star, which is like a tower defense kind of game. And I truly did not know about this until, whenever I researched this. And that is a huge bummer to me. For a while, those were the video games being released for Star Wars, because that shit sucks.
Yeah,
I'm not knocking mobile games necessarily, but just like just a bummer that like you have games like Battlefront 2, and then Angry Birds Star Wars. Just
yeah, and I think I definitely remember like just like being like just like subconsciously being aware that like, there haven't been like any notable Star Wars games that have been coming out. And it feels like this is definitely like during that time where it's like there's rumors of a new Star Wars game, like something big's gonna come out, guys. Like we're gonna get that big Star Wars game, and then it just never happened because of, I don't know, I guess acquisitions, and because whoever's in charge of, putting the license into the hands of people that want to or can make good games, they just don't do it or don't let them have the freedom to make those things, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The combination of the two, I suppose, is probably what led to this kind of drought. But yeah, I do remember just thinking like, I haven't played a fun Star Wars game since like Force Unleashed. Did you play that one?
Yeah. My younger brother had Force Unleashed, and Force Unleashed. And honestly, like, I think I might have been, I don't know if I was at the height of my nerdiness, or maybe it was just after. I think I had just recently thought I was too cool for Star Wars, so I like wasn't going to play it, and I would watch him play it occasionally. And I remember being kind of mad that Darth Vader all of a sudden had an apprentice who could literally bring down a Star Destroyer from the sky.
He's Star Killer.
I know, but it's like, I guess people complain about the same things like with Rey doing stuff like that, but at least she's in like the movies. He's just like, you think that somebody would have mentioned this crazy powerful Force user.
That's a good point. Yeah.
At some point, like when they're like about to blow up the Death Star, like, hey, what about that one guy who can pull Star Destroyers out of the sky with his mind?
What's his name? Star Maker.
Yeah, like that's a pretty big deal. You'd think people would have heard about that. I don't know. I don't know the storyline of those, so maybe he dies unknown to anybody else. That could be.
I don't remember, because I know they made a second one, and I think you still play as the same guy.
Yeah,
but like I all I remember is that I got really excited about this game. I pre-ordered it.
Oh,
and I got the pre-order bonus, which was a wall decal of Star Killer, and which was half of it. That was like the top half, and the bottom half of the wall decal was just Star Wars Force Unleashed. Giant text. But I got this game for Wii, and I remember being so excited for it and being slightly underwhelmed when actually playing it, because the motion controls were not that good. And
oh yeah, you probably wanted to use your Wiimote as a lightsaber.
Yep, that's what you had to do, was like wiggle your Wiimote,
probably
wiggle your lightsaber with it.
Realistic.
Because it on top of that, like, the graphics were just so much worse than they were on like, I remember seeing images of the same game on PS3 and thinking like, oh, that's what this game is supposed to look like. But I do remember just really liking that game because you could like customize your guy. You could like get different armor, and I think you get different lightsabers. And I was like, this is so cool. Mm-hmm. But I remember that because that was like, what, 2008-ish, somewhere around there, 2008, 2009.
I think so. Honestly, I was very surprised about myself in this research. I apparently just assume everything happened in 2008. Like whenever I'm looking things up, I imagine like, oh, this is probably 2008. And it'll be like 2002, 2004, something like that. I don't know why that's such like a pivotal year in my brain, but that's what I think of.
I think about 2007 and 2008 a lot. I don't know, just because that's when I like probably played the most video games. So I get that. But yeah, I do remember that Force Unleashed was the last time I thought like this is a fun Star Wars game, and then not thinking about any Star Wars games until the new Battlefront comes out.
Right. So those
came out.
Yeah, have been released through EA because they have an exclusive licensing deal, I guess, with Star Wars video games.
They sure do, which is a little unfortunate.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of where the nostalgia ends, really. For me anyway. But I've played those games, and I will say that they're pretty fun. Like
they are fun.
They are fun, the new ones. But for me, just specifically, this is the only time I'll probably ever be able to talk about this, really. The ship controls when you're flying in space battles in the new Battlefront 2, they're totally different than they were in the original Battlefront 2.
They are. They're a lot more realistic, I think.
I don't know why they like that. Needed to make it more realistic, because I feel like I was a pretty good pilot in the first Battlefront.
I was a good pilot too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Take a Y-wing in those space battles and then just bomb the hell out of whatever your like the targets were on like the bigger ship
on the Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
No, it was awesome.
I was an ace pilot.
Me too, dude. And now
I will not go anywhere near any vehicle.
I know, it's impossible. And like, you can do hero battles of that, which is how I got to fly. I was like, yes, I can fly the Millennium Falcon or like Luke's X-Wing. And I fucking crashed those things in like 10 seconds. And it made me feel really bad. And I just want I want to be good at video games again, but I don't want to put in any effort. And that's it. Oh, Snap Judgment. Forgot to do the segment, but it was about Angry Birds Star Wars.
Wait, do you have a Snap Judgment?
Yeah, they're bad.
Oh, okay.
Here, maybe we could cut out what I already said about them.
Yeah.
Or I could just
I'll just like edit in wherever it probably fits. So have some clean audio and then make your Snap Judgment.
And Josh, I got to tell you, I've got my Snap Judgment.
Oh, here it is.
Of the week.
Snap Judgment of the week.
I think that the Angry Birds Star Wars games, they're bad. I've never played them, but they look shitty. And I don't want to play them, and I probably never will.
And I don't think anyone's going to blame you for that.
Nope. That is my Snap Judgment.
There it is, folks. Snap Judgment of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What a nice little trip through Star Wars video games.
Yep.
Spent a lot of time playing them.
Me too. Should have spent more time researching them.
It's all about what you remember, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more of, I think that's a more important part of the show, is just remembering what you remember about the stuff.
Yeah.
So eloquently put it.
I mean, I will say in my defense, the only bigger mess than my description of LucasArts through the years is probably the story of Lucasfilm in general, because I've done some reading about just like the whole like making of the Star Wars movies and the expanded universe and stuff. And boy, it's a big clusterfuck most of the time. And it's a miracle any of it happened, and that any of it happened well.
Yeah. I would agree.
Yep.
Paul, you got any final thoughts on Star Wars video games?
I would like to say that Battlefront 2 holds up.
Classic?
Excellent game. Classic Battlefront 2. I loved playing Rebel Assault 2 with a joystick as a kid. That's like probably the closest I've ever felt to being an actual like X-Wing pilot, was like sitting in our little computer room, which sounds fancy, but it was literally a like 3x4 room that we also used as a pantry. I was sitting there because that's where our computer was, and I would have my joystick and I would be flying around an X-Wing. And that was a really, really great feeling that I have not found since in any video game. And Galactic Battlegrounds, I played that game for hours and it was really fun.
Wow.
Not any exciting thoughts, just that I think there's a lot of really good Star Wars video games.
And hopefully there'll be more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I suppose that's our episode on Star Wars video games.
Yeah. If you have anything you want to say about Star Wars video games, please email us at nostalgiasystempodcast@gmail.com.
Or send us a tweet at Nostalgia System. Share your memories with us.
Oh,
Let us know what games you played.
I'm so glad I remembered that email.
You got it.
I went into it totally shooting in the dark.
You got it.
I need to keep my notes open because it's in there.
It is in there at the bottom of every doc
already.
On top of sharing us your thoughts, we'd also appreciate it if you could leave a review of our podcast on your platform if it allows. Leave it on iTunes, leave it on Stitcher. Those are the only ones I know where you can leave a review, but we'd appreciate it if you could let us know you like the show.
And if you don't like the show, take a fucking hike, idiot.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah.
Additionally, we'd also love it if you would tell your friends about us. That, I think, is one of the most important things. If you like the show,
spread the word.
Spread the word. Share it on your Instagram stories. Share it on your Facebook stories. Share it on your YouTube stories.
Tell
share
your
it
mom,
on
tell your grandpa, tell your grandma, tell your uncle, tell your auntie, tell your cousin, tell your second cousin.
Tell your cat, tell your dog, tell your bird. Tell that regular at work.
Yeah.
They'd love to hear it. Play it at work.
Yeah.
Play this show at work.
Yeah, play this fucking shit at work already.
You just gotta.
You fucking better.
Finally, additional support for this show can be given at Patreon at patreon.com/Nostalgia Entertainment System. We have a very modest goal of $40 per month to help pay for hosting and for website stuff. If we could get to that point, the show becomes self-sustainable, and we'd really appreciate that. But, of course, Patreon support is optional, but we would really appreciate it. Thank you to MoonRayker Music for composing our theme song Scanlines. You can find them over on Twitter and probably other places now too, at MoonRayker Music. That's MoonRayker, RAYKER. Paul, you got anything to plug?
No. I think I have actually logged on to Twitter since I last plugged it. I didn't tweet anything, but feel free to follow me there at Krang's Dumb Body, KRANGSDUMBBODY, because I gotta.
Oh boy. You can find me on Instagram and Patreon and Twitch and other places.
I have a Twitch.
Do you actually?
Wait, does it count if I just have the account? I shouldn't have interrupted you for this. Sorry.
I mean, if you stream from it, then yeah, I guess
I've never
Twitch.
streamed from it.
Okay.
I've watched people stream.
Ooh.
Is that a count?
Yeah, I guess you could follow. They could still follow you.
Okay. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Okay. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Patreon and Twitch at Daruma Party. That's DARUMA Party. Why? Finish it out, Paul.
Because you gotta.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you. I always wait for you to spell party, and
I'm never going. I'm never gonna.
That bit's just never gonna work. Out.
Except for the one time I do. You gotta watch out.
Yeah.
That's it on our episode on Star Wars video games. Paul, what are we talking about next week?
Next week, I don't know, Josh. I don't have a good segue into it, but we're talking about bands we used to listen to in middle school and in maybe early high school.
That's it. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.